Hello everybody, I'm going to change up my videos a little bit. My name is Jaya, in case you didn't know. I am a monk and I have been a practicing monk since the year 2000. 2001 is actually when I took my vows. And it was such a privilege to take my first set of vows because it was the first time in my life I totally committed to me, to my path. I was the age of 30, so it wasn't like I was naive. I'd already owned a house and sold it. I'd already had relationships. I've already owned a dog. I was at the age when a lot of people were perhaps having kids or focusing in the beginning of your 30s of settling into your rhythm, I guess, of life. Having the house, having the job, all that kind of stuff. But for me, it was an incredible turning point. Oh boy, am I going to get wet feet? For me, it was an incredible turning point because right there, because I realized there was more to life, more to me than I'd been living, and I hadn't found it then. And all through my 20s, there was these questions that bugged me, and they might be kind of old school questions. But I'll be out partying and all that stuff, and then that question would come up, what am I really here for? What am I really supposed to be doing with my life? I'll be in the middle of a party and I'll be sitting there going, who are we all? Why are we here? Who am I? What a downer, right? Good old party. But that question haunted me from time to time in the most obscure times and moments in my life. And it never went away. But what it did give me was this burning desire to discover. So back then in my 20s, how I discovered was travel. I discovered different countries. I discovered different cultures. I loved it. Travel was a big fuel and purpose in my life. To know more, to open my mind, to live in countries or be in countries where English wasn't number one, so that I could actually have to connect in different ways and learn their language, learn their way of life. Asia, India, the Pacific Islands, I'm trying to remember, Fiji. There was a lot of places I went to kind of get out of my box, out of my world of living my life, and be kind of challenged to live something else, something new, something unfamiliar, and then to see who I was in all these situations. I remember the first time I landed in Mexico and I didn't even know they spoke Spanish. I mean, hello, but I was at the airport, I couldn't even buy a water, and I was dumbfounded that no one there could actually help me or wanted to help me. This is like 15 years ago, it might be a bit different now, but how naive was that, right? But also, what do you do with that? You're in that situation. How do you cope? How do you survive? So the character of myself that was being built because of that was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. So the search continued outside, looking for different cultures, taking the good photographs, proving to myself that I was doing good at all these things. And then one day, I think I started getting a little bit fascinated by magic and believing that, as humans, we should be able to do magic, so why can't I? And as my personality is, it's like, okay, I didn't want to be a magician, but I wanted to prove that I could do it. These waves are coming in mighty fast. Alrighty. I believe I'm okay. So the magic then led me to meditation. The people who are magical, the people who are doing something different, the people that believe that there's not just us on planet Earth, the people that believe in the Pleiades, the people that believe in all kinds of stuff. But what it did, regardless of their beliefs, is it opened me up to more. There wasn't just this life. There wasn't just this world. Perhaps there was a lot more going on. And that call in my heart, who am I and why am I here continued. So one day I was driving home from work and a friend was driving behind me, flashing his lights, and I was like, man, what's up with him? And we stopped the cars and he jumps out and he's like, man, I've got to tell you, the monks are coming to town. You have to be there. I don't know why, but you have to be there. I was like, okay, crazy friend. But I went, I listened, and it wasn't about magic, it was about the mind. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went back the next day because it was a weekend course. And in this particular course, they sing a ceremony just to kind of purify and invite. And so I was listening to this ceremony, and I've never really been one for church. I've never been one for, I wouldn't say beliefs, because I was very drawn towards Buddhism at one point, but ceremonies meant someone's trained, someone knows something that I don't know, someone's been exposed to something much deeper, perhaps a religion, perhaps a belief, perhaps a commitment to learn that. So all of this stirred inside of me when the song was being sung for me. And it actually so impacted my being in that moment that was what actually got me to continue to meditate. It wasn't the relationship to the mind in that moment as such. It definitely was a ceremony. Later, I got to see how incredible the relationship to the mind is. But in that moment, what drove me into more curiosity to keep my meditation practice, my new meditation practice going, was actually a ceremony, meaning commitment, dedication, and depth. And I believe that's perhaps what I've always been looking for, was the meaning of life, the purpose of my being. And not just, hey, go get a job, but what am I really here for? What is my real divine purpose? I feel very blessed that today, talking to you, I say, I know my divine purpose. It is to share consciousness. It's to do these videos, it's to meet people, it's to talk about the mind, it's to talk about meditation, it's to talk about our divine purpose on this planet as humans, what we're really here for. And on the superficial layer, of course it is all our interactions and making money and having a house. That's life, you know, people need to do that. But the divine purpose isn't that. The divine purpose is your heart, your being, your divine truth, answering the question, who am I? And living the truth of why am I here? I can say today that I know the answers to those questions without a doubt. I know who I am divine consciousness. I am this infinite, unmovable, pure, untainted, divine being, this presence that just is, that purity that's uncontained, never been contained, can't be contained, because it's everywhere all the time. That is who I am. That is what we teach at the Brightpath. We teach little stepping stones, of course, how to first learn to see the mind and all the things that you are not, so that you can then embrace and live what you are. It's very livable, very practical what we teach. And what I love is watching people kind of get it at all the different layers. First they get to see the mind and they're like, oh yeah, I notice now I have thoughts. And then they get to see the mind and they go, okay, I notice I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. It's chasing me. And then you get to see that when you don't have thoughts, or the thoughts are not you, well then who are you? And that is when the magic begins. And people really start to wake up and realize the divine presence of who they are and who they're being. And to watch people's lives transform. They can be millionaires, they can be $1 heirs, they can be owning 20 shops, they could be owning a shoe. It It doesn't matter. What matters is you knowing who you are. Yay.